I first played Roblox in around 2008, maybe as early as 2007. I was at a friend's house and he wanted to show me this cool new thing he'd been playing on his family PC. I remember him describing it as this incredible sandbox where you could play all kinds of different game modes and even make and share your own. Which was crazy because I didn't know you could do that with sand. He let me hop on the game for a while and I ran around a bit in an obstacle course or some such, getting my bearings and seeing a small slice of what was possible. And in those brief moments, I felt something special. So special, in fact, that right then and there I firmly concluded, yeah, there's no way this is catching on. I'm going home so I can play a real game, like Oblivion, on its lowest settings at 18 frames per second. And following that, I didn't touch Roblox again for at least 13 years. In fact, I actively avoided and kind of dismissed it. But lo and behold, my prediction was somewhat off. A few people have indeed played Roblox, and it did somewhat catch on. So while I spent the 2010s getting really into indie horror games as my main interest, little did I know there was a whole horror scene developing on Roblox as well, which until now I've almost entirely missed out on. But not anymore, because today I'm going to be looking at some Roblox horror games which have been carefully picked using meticulous research methods, such as looking up good Roblox horror, reading miscellaneous listicles, asking people desperately for help, and also just seeing what's recommended to me automatically by Roblox itself. So, let's take a look. But first, a disclaimer and a task. The disclaimer is that this will not be a deep dive into any of these games, just a collection of first impressions that I had as a relative newbie. And as for the task, I need to create a Roblox avatar. And here he is. Mouse MD. Alternatively, House Rat. You'd be forgiven for assuming, based on the main menu screen here, that The Mimic is a game about the horrors of managing a hotel during the British school holidays. But in reality, The Mimic is a horror game based off the absolute treasure trove of strange and off-putting stories that is Japanese folklore. It's not the first game to do this, but it is the first that I'm aware of to let me engage with Japanese folklore while looking like this. Though I was saddened to see that I'm not allowed to use my custom rat body, and as such, I myself must mimic a lowly human. And while walking around in the very visually impressive lobby, I can see that the range of aesthetics people choose to play Roblox with is fascinating. You get people dressed like anime characters, people dressed as the 2012 ideal of a chill-ass dude, people dressed as male manipulators, Shane Top, and even a few fellow scholars of the obscene. What an interesting species we are. But I must say, there's a hell of a lot of people using this specific hair model, and let me tell you, when they finally get around to adding male pattern baldness to Roblox, you lot are getting hit like a freight train. Let's play the game. It's broken up into episodes or books, with each having a different evil entity that you can encounter, and as of writing this, in April of 2025, there are 2 episodes, each of which themselves are broken up into various chapters. Starting from Control Chapter 1, let's see what it's all about. We start the game at a school in what I can only imagine is California, while attempting to find some of our friends who have gone missing. And pretty quickly we get teleported to Japan, and we don't seem entirely too bothered by that. After walking around for a bit, we end up getting chased around a big maze by a tall woman, which I know is to many people's tastes, but personally, I don't care too much for the maze side of things. I've played a lot of indie horror games, so I've done so many mazes. Too many mazes. And a maze is usually one of the biggest indications that a developer is somewhat new to horror. On the surface, it's a good and easy way of stressing us out and padding for time, and they can do that pretty well. But they're not very fun, and they're rarely interesting from a setting perspective either. The player isn't the only thing getting lost here. The best mazes are not mazes, but instead regular, logical buildings or areas that feel like mazes due to intentional creative choices or obstacles. Or they're not mazes at all and instead labyrinths. Like IKEA. Another sign of a new horror developer are miscellaneous jump scare triggers throughout levels, which happens quite a lot here, and it makes sense. When we think about horror, we think about scaring people, startling them, getting screams and yelps and the like. So throw some jump scares at the player and it's job done, right? Well, sure, but you are limiting yourself quite a lot. The best thing a horror creator can realize is that tension is way more important and effective than shock. That's why games like Darkwood, Scratches, Silent Hill, and so on are so lauded. They're almost all atmosphere and build-up. So, overall, at this point, The Mimic feels like a standard 2010s indie horror experience, but it has a strong theming to set it apart a little bit. The Japanese folklore vibe is a nice one, plus it looks like the scary woman is having a great time. However, the later chapters are much more interesting to me. The set pieces are immediately more impressive, like this big old library which has a long neck villain patrolling around it. The gameplay loop remains largely the same, being find key for door, don't get got, but that's pretty par for the course across the whole genre, and hey, it's nice to move away from the mazes even if they are still around somewhat. What isn't par for the course is a giant man with a sword. Albeit he doesn't seem too interested in me, he appears to be sulking, likely because he forgot to install Counter-Strike. There's quite an ominous section where you come across a door that has cries for help and various related clatterings going on behind it, so it very much feels like you shouldn't open it. Thankfully, our man Daniel from Amnesia left us a note saying something vague and upsetting, but with an underlying tone of, yeah, don't. More large people and quite literally a handful of butterflies later, we get to a revelation that most of what we've seen so far is an illusion created by a dark spirit, and there are people trapped in here with us, including our very own friends and family. Which is good to hear, because I have been wondering what the Mimic was actually referring to. It turns out it's referring to literally everything. It's less good to hear about the tormented souls, but we take the good with the bad. Each of the chapters feel quite distinct, and they all got progressively better as well, especially the last two. They never really graduate above the kind of standard for small indie horror games, but they don't necessarily need to either. I mean, at the end of the day, that's literally what this is. But one thing it certainly has going for it over most other indie horror games is that it uses the Dark Souls item pickup sound. It turns into something of a Slender clone towards the end, where you have to avoid tall people and collect or destroy X of Y. I didn't mind it, though. They kept it somewhat interesting with slightly different enemy mechanics and goals, including one where you get a katana and slice up some giant hearts, so that's better than collecting a few pages, I reckon. Also, this guy's chase music is stolen from Amnesia, so that's fun. It also explains why Daniel was kicking about earlier. And then it ends exactly how you would imagine it would. A sword battle against a giant spider woman. And I suck at it, but nonetheless, I defeat the woman and am given two choices. Save my family from this horrible pocket dimension, or take revenge on the villain behind it all. And in a creative move I adore, revenge is the good ending. The moral of the story? Ghosts are meant to be dead. But given that Control was only one of the game's episodes, and it seemed to improve from chapter to chapter, I imagine that the second episode must be even better. So let's check out Jealousy. You can hold a rat. It's better, it's so much better. At the start of Jealousy, we walk into an office, and we can see that all of the computers in here have the Tor browser installed. That's concerning. But there's also a morgue directly attached to the office that holds our very own brother's corpse, so maybe we can put the hard drive checks on hold while we deal with that. And if we weren't having a bad enough day already, a few moments later, our boat gets sunk by a titan. Typical. There's a huge number of improvements going from Control to Jealousy. There are now intro scenes, the environments are a bit more rich, there's a whole lore drop with some cool art, plus a few nice gameplay additions like in-game tips and the like. The gameplay is also more complex, relying a bit less on hiding keys in mazes and leaning more into puzzles, at least from what I saw. And it's also way harder. Like, substantially harder. I imagine it would be more manageable with friends, but this first encounter is rough solo, even with rat companions. But we are rewarded with the best gift of all.
Whoa, look at that big skeleton!
Holy shit!
Chilling.
And if you brave it through to the later chapters, you get to meet one of the coolest guys ever. Like, this fella that eats me and then default poses for the rest of time. Or this absolute goat. People like mascot horror plushies, where's this guy's one? But anyway, I won't talk much more about this game because I've got loads of others to talk about, but you can see a really nice progression on the developer's side going from the start of the control chapters, which were a little basic and dated, all the way to the most recent jealousy updates, which are way more ambitious. They've really improved their craft, and the game has become substantially more interesting over time. It's very similar to the progression you can see with developers like DV Loper over the Slendrina games, and I will always root for people striving to improve. I can see why this is one of the most popular Roblox games. It's got this guy in it. But it's also a very reliable horror game, if you get what I mean. There's nothing too extreme in it, it's made up of well-known horror formats, it's got a good consistent theme, and it lends itself to fun multiplayer games. Oh, I see the villain. Oh. She did a kickflip on your body, that was crazy! Are the enemies in the Mimic scary? Well, the spider woman at the end of Control got me good, and the two-mouthed wretch from Jealousy was brutal, but other than that, I found the enemies to serve more of a stylistic thing than a pure horror one. But I think that speaks more to the changes we've seen over the last 20 years in terms of what's considered scary, because I know for a fact that all of these monster designs would have been considered horrific in the days when Ao Oni was new. And for a few final notes on this one, the lobby music is oddly good, as are a lot of the visuals, but they are sometimes hampered by classic Roblox clunk. But I think that's part of the charm for a lot of people. Hell, outside of Roblox we've been putting up with Unity and Unreal clunk for years, so I'll give it a pass. I will say that the forced depth of field can enhance some of the environments, but more often than not it just feels like I forgot to put on my glasses. And I don't wear glasses, so that's a problem. And the only level I specifically dislike is Jealousy Chapter 3, because it has you navigating hellish meat caves. That would usually be fine, but it reminds me way too much of playing Agony and Lust for Darkness. But this was a little bit less unpleasant. Next game. Games love putting phobia in their names. Apeirophobia, Phasmophobia, Phobia 1.5, hell, typing phobia in the Steam search engine gives us a load of different games. Human phobia, Aquaphobia, Dark Souls 2, which I guess is fitting because I am certainly Dark Souls 2 phobic. Hey, check that out, you can already hear them commenting. And I always find the phobia game names quite funny because they clearly wanted to use the word fear or scared, but sound smart and sneaky in doing so, which is why I suggest we rename the Fears to Fathom series to Phobias to Think About. But anyway, yes, this is Apeirophobia, and it's a game about everyone's favorite scary yellow place, the Backrooms. It opens with a fun recreation of the introduction to Kane Pixel's incredibly impressive Backrooms analog horror series, complete with the funny creature mask. And then we slip through a crack in reality and end up in the Lobby, which is another name for the original and most well-known Backrooms location, which is a far better fate than if you slip through a crack in reality here in the UK, because then you'll end up in Milton Keynes. And when we actually start playing, we just kinda walk around. It's pretty chill. Until Jump Scare Bastard and Pencil Mistake turn up to ruin your nice stroll, then it becomes clear that we're meant to find a way out. And that is our goal. Finde die Leiter and leave. This is an example of a maze that kinda works. It doesn't feel too contrived and it fits nicely with the liminal space horror idea. It's pretty easy to get turned around, as the only features in there are walls and carpet and maybe one or two props lying around. There are sometimes arrows drawn onto the walls and directions scribbled down, but they are even less certain than we are, and that takes some effort. My favorite feature of the environment is the very frequent placement of power outlets. They'd probably work, too, given that the lights are on. Every so often someone reminds me that I should make some kind of merch for the channel, so how's this for an idea? A shirt that says, "I stuck a fork in the power outlets of the Roblox Backrooms and all I got was a sickening sense of dread." I'm open to other ideas too. The creatures in this level didn't give me too much trouble. The lanky, chasey fellow was quite cross at me and made that abundantly clear, but the real villain is this jump scare guy. He doesn't kill you, he's just there to disrupt your flow and irritate you. He's kind of like an ad break. But this level only lasts so long, and following it we move into new liminal spaces with different threats. And the second level is a sort of dimly lit pool room section where you need to spin some valves to open the exit. And this one is substantially less stressful, but not because you're safe. It's less stressful because the villain is a giant lovable tentacle beast who just kinda wiggles around. There's nothing scary about him. Who doesn't love octopodes? Following that, we get some more classic liminal imagery, like this spooky courtyard place. Images of this have been around for quite some time, and if you're wondering what the source is, it's actually just a Holiday Inn near London's Heathrow Airport, making it an excellent entry into one of my favourite games. Is it a liminal space, or is it simply England? Well, here in Scotland we can't really talk. Shout out to Logie Jim and Leith Waterworld. You know, from Gary's mod. And I gotta say, the variety found in this game is really impressive. Yeah, most of the levels are some variation of discover the monster's gimmick, find a thing, leave, but that's fine. It's got a lot more range than other games that do similar things. My personal favorite enemy you encounter is the guy found in the office section. He's blind, so he doesn't bother you at all if you're quiet. And I mean that, he really does not give a shit if you're quiet. He's also prime bullying material if you're playing with friends who just want to ruin his life by whistling back and forth. There's also a cave area later on where the monster impersonates the people that you're playing with, and that was very interesting, but unfortunately for me, I was playing with odd people who I fear to begin with, so the effect was largely redundant. Shout out to Windort and Trudi. Don't hurt me. Not all of the levels are creature features featuring creatures, however. Some are just pure vibes, and I like those ones. Something that's kind of been lost over the years is the original concept of the backrooms and liminal horror at large, where it was, initially, really just about being empty. The eeriness came from the claustrophobia, the odd familiarity of the pictured locations, and the uncanny feeling that comes with that. And the idea that some creature or entity could be in there with you was born of a naturally cultivated paranoia rather than anything explicitly stated or shown. Any provable supernatural or anomalous elements were a much later addition to the genre. And that's how I best liked liminal spaces, when the devious cocktail of implication and half-memory was the driving force. But the problem with that is, it's an incredibly limited kind of horror. You've really just got the images, and any other medium simply demands more information. And thus, the creatures and lore and categorization and SCP-ifying arrived. And that's fine, I don't dislike what liminal horror is now, it's just quite a different beast. There are games out there that are more pure liminal horror than this, like the game Pools, but that is really only a good time if you're into pure atmosphere and nothing else. It's a walking simulator in the truest sense of the term. I mean, there's not a fun starfish villain anywhere in that game. And you would definitely not get this unbelievably long chase sequence in Pools, but we definitely have it in Apeirophobia. This is one of the only levels I did not enjoy playing too much simply because it took so long. Listen, I love a little bit of being ran at. The thrill is in the chase, etc. But over 2 minutes of unbroken sprinting is a little dry. You gotta throw in some intermissions or sub-challenges to keep it interesting. Like in that one section of Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth where the game makes you push through barricades and lock doors or restart because the entire thing crashed. And after the super long chase, we're thrown into another high-octane horror scenario where you've got to do an algebra puzzle in a quiet, empty library. I made my friends do that while I ran around, and that's more or less where we stopped playing as a group. But there are many more areas to this game. In fact, the game has a whopping 24 levels to choose from as of writing this in April. Now, apeirophobia means fear of infinity, which leads me to believe that the number 25 is the elusive infinity plus 1. Now, I'm not going to talk you through all of the levels because that would be a whole video in itself, but I did test some of the later ones at random, and that led to one of the funniest deaths I've ever had in a horror game. I love how he did a little, ooh, let me just scoot around here real quick move on me. It was perfect. It does seem that the later levels, from 17 onwards, seem to be deviating quite heavily from the classic liminal spaces of the other levels. They're still kind of there, but they're a bit less empty and a bit less claustrophobic. But still, worth playing. Can I see why this game is so popular? Absolutely. Just like with the Mimic, there's a ton of variety and reliably solid horror elements in here that keep it interesting. I'd probably prefer it to the Mimic because of the whole liminal space theming. Again, I live in a liminal space, so it kind of feels homely. It seems a lot more polished than some other Roblox horror games, and again, it works great in multiplayer. especially against this poor wretch. Overall, it's a really good time minus one or two issues like the slightly too long chase sequence and the algebra puzzle that follows. And that's really all I've got to say about Apeirophobia. Personally, I've only got two strong fears: deep water and people in YouTube thumbnails that have had their contrast cranked way up to look slightly uncanny, and they've had like their eyes and teeth brightened to the point of activating my fight or flight response. You know the ones. So you could say I've got Apeirophobias myself. This also uses some Garry's Mod sound effects, which means we're 2 for 2 on dubiously legal audio bites in these games. But I'm a YouTuber who uses like game soundtracks in my videos, which is technically also a huge breach of copyright. In fact, so is showing gameplay, I believe. So I ain't snitching. I'm not a rat. Constructive criticism can be a tough thing to listen to. That's why I don't, but if you're looking for an example on how best to take constructive criticism, look no further than Scott Cawthon. When Stephanie Sterling made a video calling Scott's game Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. a little creepy, Scott could have quit game development altogether, but instead he took that criticism and turned it into one of the most successful and influential horror IPs of all time, making millions, if not billions of dollars in the process, as well as revitalizing the YouTube horror scene, catalyzing the popularization of analog horror, and assassinating the character of one Charles Entertainment Cheese to the point where he is now forced to say things such as poggers on stream simply to survive.
Poggers!
So next time you get constructive criticism, just do that, idiot. Anyway, this is The Intruder. It's a Roblox game heavily inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, but with much more emphasis on the analog horror elements, such as lad with silly face and guy who likely has joint pain. For those unfamiliar with the formula, you monitor creepy beasts as they approach your location through security cameras, while sometimes doing chores, such as, in the first level, declining phone calls and hiding in a dark closet. I know many of us do those two things regularly, so it should come naturally to most. However, unlike most FNAF games, this is a full-blown 3D experience where you can walk around and do other tasks rather than being stuck in a simple point-and-click mode. This means there's a lot more variety in the levels of this game than I expected, with some feeling much more like regular horror adventures than the semi-arcadey feel of Cawthon's games. And playing this game solo is largely what you'd expect, a stressful exercise in paranoia where your main foe is not what's chasing you, but instead, time. And occasionally you get jump scared and go eep or some such. It's a very serviceable FNAF clone with some decent item hunts and sneaking sections in between to create a bit more of a relaxed pace than you might be used to. Multiplayer is a bit of a different beast, as with all of these games, because you have to deal with people that look like this. And that does disrupt the stress aspect a little. It can also be a bit confusing because sometimes people trigger something that doesn't make sense to anyone else. In fact, in one of the first multiplayer games I recorded, we tried the mineshaft level and this is how that went. You have such a confident Oh.
Okay.
I just got here.
So instead we went back to the first level again, and it was more or less the same as playing it single player, but with the intruder using a slightly broken version of someone else's character model when snooping around. And I find that a little less unsettling than the analog horror look he usually has. I've poked fun at analog horror a lot in the past, but I do generally enjoy it. And I do like how well it couples with the cold, clinical style of things like the SCP universe, which lots of analog horror series take inspiration from. And that's very much on show here. Lots of ominous public safety warnings, redacted information snippets, robotic voices, and so on. And it can be a little much at times. The redacted police department? Jesus Christ.
Why is it redacted, dude?
Like, that's pretty important information.
SCP.
But it does vary from level to level, and just like the other two games I've spoken about, it's really quite impressive in its scope for what it is. I guess that's just a thing in Roblox games. Unfortunately, while playing, I got stuck in some kind of netherworld forever and had to sit there and listen while my friends carried on, but it sounded like they were having a great time. Conversely, one of my friends, Trudi, got killed early in the first level and had to spectate us, and in doing so, captured this harrowing found footage style video of us survivors going about our business. And I don't have a tremendous amount more to say about the Intruder, other than the fact that all of this clinical SCP-inspired stuff really bolsters my thesis that the children yearn for industrial accidents and bureaucracy. So to summarize, the Intruder is what it looks like it is, and if that's your thing, hell yeah. Personally, I found some of the games to be a little tedious, but that may simply be what the experts call a skill issue. Like, the Mineshaft one went on for maybe 40% too long. And there are only so many times I can have a similar ending paragraph for these games, so instead have this clip of my friend Wind being ominous.
Which is
Wind,
nice.
you're doing the pose at the end of the Blair Witch Project. That was scary.
This is my default pose.
Manhunt is a command I heard often growing up in the untamed steppes of Edinburgh, Scotland. But as I grew, I discovered that manhunt may also refer to a game developed and published by some of the developers behind Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, and Lemmings? Rockstar North. And they're also based in Edinburgh, so I really should have known that earlier. But anyway, the Manhunt games are games where you skulk around in grim, Saw-like environments and hunt various creatures, mostly man, in quite gruesome ways. And naturally, Roblox has its own equivalent. Traversal. This is a game that was recommended to me directly through the YouTube community tab by Bonesy, among others potentially, so thank you for that. This is an up to 2-player game, which is maybe not technically horror, where you sneak around and murder masked villains in some dilapidated environments. Weirdly, this is a game that I found way more distressing than almost any other Roblox project. Maybe it's because it just comes across as a bit more brutal than anything else, which is an especially weird feeling when our character models look like this. There's something about more grounded violence that makes us substantially more uneasy than the over-the-top stuff. Seeing somebody get slowly bludgeoned to death with a bat is a little harder to watch than somebody getting annihilated by some kind of strange dream locomotive like you'd see in Saw 3D. It's like how the movie Funny Games 2007 or Funny Games 1997 are way more unsettling than most gore-heavy films. They do a lot less, but they hit a lot harder. I can't believe I'm bringing up Funny Games in a Roblox video. A lot of you should not watch that film. But anyway, yes, this is a game where you stealth around and beat people into a fine red mist. Ideally, you do manage to sneak about, but I am bad at that. So my friend and I ended up in a lot of brawls where we clumsily attempted to Sekiro parry felons before getting ragdolled and having to restart. You get a variety of different weapons to fight with, tools to help distract foes, as well as some environmental things like shadows to hide in and spotlights to avoid. Pretty standard stealth game fare and executed pretty well. But the game's strengths are not in the gameplay, which can carry the classic Roblox level of clunk that almost all games here share, but instead its strengths are in its atmosphere and aesthetics. Default avatars aside, it's grimy, bleak, rusted, all things that I'm used to, but it's nice to see them in fiction. A lot of other Roblox games fall into the category of looking like, well, Roblox games. It's a difficult thing to try and describe or quantify, but it becomes quite obvious once you've played a Roblox game that doesn't look like that. And I really appreciate it. Obvious Roblox character models aside, it really feels like it's its own thing. It had a specific aesthetic and feel that it wanted to replicate, and it did so perfectly. It's a pretty short game altogether. In fact, the first time we played it, we quit at some point to try some other games, and when we went back and did the whole thing again, we realized that on our initial playthrough, we were like 2 rooms away from completing it. So that was cool, but it didn't overstay its welcome, which some other Roblox games can do, especially the ones that are built around trying to sell you stuff, which is a whole topic I haven't touched on yet. But for now, that's all about Traversal, partially because I've said all I want to say, and partially because I'm worried that people will stop watching due to this footage being so dark that YouTube compresses this whole section into 8 pixels of varying brown. Traversal is a good time, a bit frustrating in terms of difficulty towards the end, but that being said, I am bad at video games, maybe you won't get that same problem. So give it a go if you want a more tonally and aesthetically complete experience than some of the others. When I launched this, I was saddened to see that this has nothing to do with the movie Dead Silence. You know, the one made by the boys who made Saw, with Jimmy Carr on the cover? And as you may expect, not every game has as much to talk about as others. So to give you a break from my exhausting scripted content, here's me playing it live. Apologies if you hate keyboard sounds, or me. The #1 scariest game on Roblox. 76% of people tend to agree. Alright, very nice. Holy shit, that's a lot of skulls. Are there any Roblox games where you get lost in like the Paris catacombs? I'd be into that. Please keep in mind that Dead Silence contains flashing lights. Dead Silence is also heavily aggressive with horror elements. Please keep this in mind. For the love of God, keep this in mind. Oh, I don't get to keep my rat body. Oh well. Okay. Why are there so many people that look exactly like this in Roblox? Oh. What am I looking at here? Is this just like a climbing mini game in the middle of the lobby? They should do this exact thing in like cinemas before you watch a horror movie. Just throw in like a climbing frame, maybe a ball pit, get people in the mood. How do I play the game? Oh. There's a button that says play. Create a party, player limit 4, that'll do. Painticus party. We're the shoebills. It appears that nobody's joining. Please keep in mind that Dead Silence contains okay, we're doing this again. That's good. I used to think crickets weren't real. We don't really get them here in the UK. Missing person, Leslie Withers, disappeared while on patrol. Patrol car found abandoned on outskirts of town. It'd be good if you could get an actual picture of them, but that'll do. Guys, I'm worried it's going to be aggressive with its horror elements. This door won't open. Okay. Hold up a moment. Yeah, Painticus did find a hammer, but at the same... Oh, no, no. Don't hurt the frogs. This is the coolest place in the world. Why is it trying to be scary? Right, I need to turn down the volume. Good heavens. Am I going to get train jump scared? Holy shit, a bone. Oh no. Brian, there's a satanic ritual going on here. Sorry, I missed the memo. Who's Brian? I'm gonna need a hand. This is... okay. I've seen more impressive satanic rituals than this. But I guess if Satan's into it, that's fine. What a room to do it in as well. Somebody's gonna have to walk through here to do some like routine maintenance, and they're really gonna interrupt the vibe. Oh well. Is the Satan train gonna kill me now? Hello? Brian, can you hear me? Brian, I'm stuck on the train tracks, Brian. Brian, I can't go anywhere. Seems like the signal is bad down here. Yes, in the tunnels underneath the sewers, I wouldn't expect the signal to be particularly great. I got train jump scared. Shit. Oh, now I'm in hell. I touched the piano that makes you blind. You wake up from a nightmare in your comfortable little room. My name is Leslie Withers. I've lost track of the days I've been here. My mind tends to wander far and deep as the ocean. Well, it's always good to see that when you get, like, kidnapped or lost in some kind of labyrinth, you're still maintaining a level of, like, poetry in your speech. That's good. Okay, that shouldn't have got me. Come on. I'm like 45 years old. Death behind this door. Okay, I won't go behind that door then. This is one of those, like, flashlights you see advertised on, like, TikTok or Instagram Reels. Which, they say, like, this is for civilian use only, don't worry, it's not a weapon, and it can blind any creature in the world. I'm behind you? Yeah, you're not, though, are you? However, it doesn't have any range to it. Incredibly bright, no range. I've been described that exact way multiple times. I think this is a Half-Life asset. I'm not sure. Maybe? I recall seeing something very similar in, like, Underhill. It's playing, like, James Bond game music. Holy shit, somebody killed that skull. That room doesn't look welcoming. Yeah, they weren't lying. Death was behind that door. Also, a huge number of books, which they didn't feel necessary to mention. I could hear the flashlight clicking there. I was doing that. That wasn't some supernatural activity. I was just deciding to scare myself. Hello, you don't have any texture. I take it back. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. My earliest memory is of me at the top of a ladder like this. And I was crying. And I was like 3 years old. I don't know why. I don't know why that's a thing. I don't think the person that made this blood smear is the same person that made this blood smear. This guy was using like a stencil. That's not really in the spirit of things. I'm behind you. You're not though, are you? Oh, you are there! Oh, hello. Are you dead silence? I think there's something quite cute about, like, ghosts and demons writing messages on walls. It shows they've got a sense of humor. Like, oh, I'm behind you. Are you, you little guy? Oh, that's good. Hello. Must have been the wind. The store won't budge. That skull keeps popping up with its, like, iconic individual bone. I'm not falling for this trick again. I fell for the trick again. Am I gonna die if I just run into you? We're gonna find out. Door's too rusty to open. Oh, you've got the hammer. How do I... Oh. Thanks. I recognize this button from somewhere. SCP containment breach, maybe? Sorry, I know I keep, like, bringing up different assets. I don't mean to, it's just... I've put decades of my life into playing weird little games. I need to have something to show for it. Thank you. Uh-oh, you better not be a villain. Nope, I can run into you. Oh. Never really found the mannequin... What do you mean? Sorry, I was trying to say something there. Oh, what happened? Who dropped the chair? I've never really found the mannequin thing scary. Can I have my light back, please? Alright, I'm just gonna keep walking. We're fine. There we go. Sorry, I've tried to say this thought like 4 times now. I've never really found the mannequin thing scary. Oh, it turns out that's the end of the thought. I thought there was more to it. Bring it in, big man! This reminds me incredibly of, like, old Gmod horror maps. And I guess, in essence, that's kind of what it is. Oh, hello. Alright. This is how I used to play hide and seek when I was a child, and then I'd, like, start screaming and crying when somebody found me, because I thought, like, how did they know? Yep, thank you. Very nice. Oh, I teleported there. What does that mean? Is anyone else getting, like, horror game vibes from this? Run. Don't look back. I'm trying to run, but I'm going at quite a leisurely pace. Hello. Uh-oh. Woman jump scare. End! So, that was my experience with Dead Silence. It's a very traditional scary map game where you walk from A to B and occasionally a ghoul or other such villain does something mischievous. There used to be loads of this kind of game both on other platforms like Gary's Mod and as standalone indie projects. I mean, they still exist, but they're not quite as popular as they once were. It's very entry-level for both player and developer, so there's definitely something nostalgic and charming about this, even if there's really very little else to say. But it does claim Skull Emoji #1 scariest game on Roblox, Skull Emoji, on the store page, so take that for what you may. This game was not on my original list of things to cover, but I saw it while looking for another game called Silent Dark, and I could not help myself. This is like opening up a Kidz Bop album and seeing that they've covered Johnny Cash's rendition of Hurt. Unlike many of the games, I can actually use my full rat body here, allowing me to seamlessly blend into the grim scenery of the Silent Hill world. And damn, let me tell you, it's pretty faithful to the source material, with some minor exceptions. In fact, I think a lot of Silent Hill 2 fans would sooner embrace this as an official entry in the series than the Bloober Team remake. And yes, I can hear them commenting too. I mean, there's no Comic Sans text on the ranch sign, so that's already put it above the HD remasters. Now, there's not much in the way of gameplay here. In fact, there's none. I don't believe you can even interact with the NPCs, but you do get to explore. And that's kind of cute. Honestly, this little rat running through the fog is comparable, if not preferable, to James Sunderland's iconic rambling. Not much of the world is accessible, mostly just the run to the graveyard and a little bit beyond, plus a secret hell room that I got sucked into, and also some of the woodside apartments. There's even a little TV with footage of Maria on it. A lovely home video, I imagine. The graveyard's church is actually accessible, which I don't believe it is in the original Silent Hill 2, so in many ways this is strictly better. I stand before you, in the house of God, as a beast crafted in the shadows beyond his loving gaze. Be thankful for his protection, for when we next meet, it won't be on holy ground. You can also swim in this, which would have made some of Silent Hill 2's darker moments a little bit more playful. But all in all, there's not much to say here. It was a neat little find. Let's move on. I found this one via a 2-year-old Reddit thread when I searched up Best Roblox Horror on Google. Apparently it was nominated for Best Single-Player Game of 2016 on Roblox, which gave me some pretty lofty expectations. And those expectations would immediately be challenged because it looked a bit goofy. Being an older game, which is a disgusting thing to utter about something from 2016, it lacks the more intricate models and textures that we would find in newer Roblox horror games like the Mimic or Apeirophobia. Which, again, is to say that it looks kind of funny. In order to make it clear that it is horror, however, the developer found a way to offset this inherent goofiness. Static. Lots of static. It's like having visual snow, but spooky rather than inconvenient. Static and film grain are staples of analog and retro horror today, but they've been around for a long time as a reliable visual trope. And a lot of other horror things also translate this same convention to audio by having white noise or some other tinnitus simulation going on. Analog horror fans would love having sensory processing issues. But anyway, the story of the game is such. We are home alone, it's getting late, and we're in our little radio room listening to the radio, and it turns out that aliens are invading. Potentially. So you know what that means. Bedtime. There's this mechanic where you have to manually close your eyes when you get into bed. I've seen some other games do this before, but this may be the earliest example that I know of. And naturally, that's horrifying. The potential for scares here is immense. And this game does something that I adore. It does almost nothing with it. That sounded sarcastic, but I assure you it's not. The temptation to scare us during these sleeping segments must have been immense, and yet, it's all tension. We scare ourselves. We know something's got to happen eventually. Let us do the work. And in fact, that's kind of the theme for the whole game. It's one of those where basically nothing happens, and yet it's incredibly tense. It's kind of like Scratches in that regard. Sorry, I've got to reference Scratches in every single video. It's one of the 3 video games I've played. Which reminds me, you can pick stuff up like you can in Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which I naturally approve of. After you get to sleep, you enter the dream world, which contains everyone's favorite biomes. Wood place and metal place, and there's big furniture. Truly the scariest size for furniture to be. Now usually I'm not a fan of huge amounts of visual filters and effects, but it felt like the effects got more intense as the game went on. They didn't actually, as far as I can tell, but the bloom and the noise became more apparent as the tension rose. Maybe it's because I was trying to make out as much detail as I could in the environments to prevent being surprised, and I liked that. It made me uncomfortable. Oddly, the place where the game is weakest is when you actually get the scare payoffs. The journey is certainly better than the destination here, especially if your destination is like, I don't know, Milton Keynes. And honestly, I don't want to say much more about it because you should go and play it for yourself. There was a reason it was nominated for Best Single Player Experience in 2016. I also don't want to linger on this because the video compression you'll be experiencing can only be described as nuclear. But this was a real surprise to me. Genuinely one of the most unsettling games I've played on Roblox. I can't recommend it enough. That being said, this isn't the original 2016 version of the game. This is a remake. The original is not functioning anymore due to some Roblox updates that broke it, and that's a shame. But this version seems to be pretty faithful. And when looking at the game's page after playing it, I noticed the developer's name. Zeekers. Or, as you may know him better, the developer behind Lethal Company. So, goofy, effect-heavy visuals that can be genuinely unsettling are kind of his thing, I guess. And you know what? He made this game when he was like 14 or 15, maybe younger. And that fills me with that special brand of dread that comes with seeing someone so much younger than me be so much more talented than me. You know what else? The young developer age makes sense. Everything in this game happens before 12 AM. All things considered, got a good bunch of scares that would fit comfortably into the average school night. Now, like I said, the original game is no longer available to play, and unfortunately that will be the case for many Roblox games both currently and increasingly into the future. And it will be the case for many games in general if they are tied to any kind of central server or platform. It's a depressing thought, the idea of media basically being destroyed or locked away. But it is something we can try to remedy, at least in part. If you're an EU citizen, you can sign a petition from the Stop Killing Games initiative to hopefully disallow companies from revoking access to games we purchase when they decide to end support. We've only got a few days before the petition closes as of uploading this, so do act fast. Now, this isn't about forcing companies to keep server support up forever. That would be unrealistic, but instead making games functional without relying on persistent publisher support, and allowing us as consumers to do things like play these games offline or legally run our own servers to replace the dead official ones. And yes, this is a real problem. Many companies, such as Blizzard, have a history of being very harsh towards fan-made preservations of their unavailable products, such as when they shut down the Nostalrius World of Warcraft Classic server in 2016, 3 years before they would offer any official alternative themselves. Hell, one of the only reasons WoW Classic exists today is because of the outcry that followed the destruction of Nostalrius. So that kind of shows us that complaining works, and we can now do it on a governmental level, so please do, if you can. And if you need it better explained to you, here's an MS Paint drawing that should summarize it, and now it's in a square so you know it's true. Anyway, now that I've tricked you into consumer rights activism, let's get back to Roblox horror games. Over the last couple of years, whenever Roblox horror games are discussed, this one basically always gets a mention. I reckon, in many people's eyes, Doors is the Roblox horror game of the 2020s so far. Other than maybe Piggy. Hell, it's approaching 7 billion visits since its release in 2021. 7 billion. That's more than the entire population of Portugal and Belgium combined. Compare that to Apeirophobia's 350 million, the Mimic's 1 billion, and the Painticus video, Finally an Accurate Cowboy Simulation's 3,500, and you can start to recognize just how huge this game is. I won't talk for too long about it because chances are you either know what it is already or you can gauge what it is pretty quickly. So, what is Doors all about? You guessed it. Hallways, mostly. It's a game where you explore a heavily stylized, old-fashioned hotel in groups of 1 to 4 while avoiding various ghouls and villains and so on. It's pretty straightforward, but very well executed. Every numbered room you enter can offer challenges such as, don't look at the big glowing thing because it will make you die, hide in a closet from a big charging creature that hates light bulbs, look at the little whispering bastard or he'll hurt your credit score, or sometimes no threat whatsoever. A lot of the rooms are safe and just act like a buffer area or loot room, and others make you do key puzzles or navigate a bit of a maze. Every so often there will be a big boss fight section where you have to do something like run from a big stomping man or be appropriately quiet in a library while forsaking the Dewey Decimal System. Now, as with pretty much all of these games, it does change pretty drastically if you're playing with friends versus playing alone. With friends, it has a lot of the goofy and erratic qualities we've become accustomed to, and it's a great time. It's not particularly scary, but it can be playfully tense when you end up in a scenario like 4 people needing to hide from the charging light bulb hater, but only having 3 places nearby to hide in. But in single player, it's a bit of a different beast. It's still not super frightening, but it's much more tense. You can play it at a bit more of a relaxed pace, and that helps draw attention to the really excellent aesthetics and atmosphere at play. Not only are the visuals incredibly distinct and very consistent, but the audio design is also pretty great. There are a lot of miscellaneous sound effects like footsteps, knocking, buzzing lights and so on, which don't actually indicate anything, but you can't exactly ignore them either because many of the real threats have similarly used audio cues themselves. It's very good at keeping you on edge, especially because you don't have any friends you can use as bait in lieu of actually paying attention to your surroundings. And you do need to pay attention to your surroundings because some of the threats are more subtle than others. My favorite example of that being the mimic creature that appears as a numbered door, just like the ones you have to run through to progress. But the catch is, it will be incorrectly numbered, so you can only tell if it's a mimic if you know the room number of the room you are currently in. Again, it's nothing particularly groundbreaking, but it's very well made and succeeds enormously at what it's attempting to do. There's a decent amount of exploration you can do as well, with rewards like secret rooms with loads of money that you can use to buy tools on your current run, or convert into resources for your next runs, and the real money purchases you can make are not nearly as egregious as some other games. They're pretty unnecessary and unobtrusive, which I like to see. Playing solo, I got to room 80 or so, and at that time I assumed that it would just go on forever, but apparently not, as once you get to level 100, you unlock an entirely new setting. Some mines in it. The mines are a bit more complex and feature some new troubles like pesky bees and flammable gases, but otherwise seem pretty similar. Preference will come down to whether you're more of a Machine for Pigs guy or a Penumbra Overture guy, and both are solid picks. And I don't have much more to say about it. I can see why it's so popular. It's a very good time that's very easy to pick up. I do wish it included more Georgia guidestones in it, like the name would suggest, and if you understand what the hell I'm talking about, then I appreciate you greatly. Let's move on. It's doors again, but with anomalies instead of ghouls. I think that's what the Monty Hall problem is. Alright, I know a lot of people like Pressure, and I enjoy it too, but I'm not gonna linger on it because, really, it is just like Doors again, but with a sci-fi skin. It has also made some new additions here and there to give it fair credit, and many people see it as a newer, fresher iteration of a beloved formula, so it's worth trying for sure. There's also a lot of lore, from what I can tell, but I am suffering so much from redacted fatigue that I don't care to dwell. Nothing against it, but redacted is now equivalent to hyper-realistic blood on a miscellaneous cartoon character in a 2012 creepypasta, in my eyes.
I turned away as I heard a sickening tearing of cloth and flesh. I only cared about getting away. Above the doorway out of the room, I saw the final message clawed into the metal with bone or fingernails. Redacted by Disney. Redacted by God.
And you know, if anyone gives Pressure any flack for being an iteration of Doors, then they have to give Doors flack for being an iteration of another Roblox game, Rooms. And then they gotta give Rooms flack for being an iteration of Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion. And then they've gotta give Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion flack for being an iteration of My Daily Commute. It swings and roundabouts. I don't fully know what that saying means, but it feels right. So yeah, Pressure is very worth playing with friends or solo. If you're a Soma lover above Penumbra or Amnesia, this one might be for you. Oh, it also has Gianni Matrograno in it, so I think that makes it an immersive sim. Alright, time for another live recorded one, this time with the ominously named Elmira, or as my Spanish-speaking viewers will surely know it, that thing he does both ways before crossing a road. Enjoy. Okay, Elmira. Horror. There she is. And there she is again. She almost reminds me of the little girl character in Sad Satan. The one that you can, like, ramp off of. Let's see, description. You fall asleep on the bus during a school trip. You wake up in the dead of night to find everyone missing, with only an old hospital in sight. Loosely based on the legend of the Black-Eyed Children. Alright. That actually happened to me once. Only the first sentence, though. I did fall asleep on a bus during a school trip. And, I must have had, like, my mouth open as I was sleeping because the guy next to me kept putting Pringles into my mouth. And then I didn't want to be the guy who, like, fell asleep on a bus, so when I woke up to find a bunch of Pringles in my mouth, I just pretended like I was awake the whole time, and I was just like, hell yeah, I'm just eating Pringles, man, don't worry about it. Anyway, this is Elmira. View and try... It, again, with this, like, very specific style that people love wearing in Roblox. I don't understand it. I'm not donating anything, but shout out to the guy, OK Robloxian, who's donated $51,000 to this game. Alright, I'm playing solo. Chapter 1. Are you sure you want to play Chapter 1 on your own? Yes, I'm brave. Shit, guys, I don't know how brave I am. Drawing Board Studios presents...
Elmira.
Elmira, of course, not to be confused with Elvira, or Elmer of the Briar. I can't believe they called an Elden Ring boss Elmer. Anyway, I guess this is the school bus, which... Right, okay, I understand falling asleep in a school bus. It's a uniquely, like, tired environment, but how the fuck do you stay asleep after it parks like this in the middle of a snowy road? And why do you have a flashlight on you? Alright, I'm gonna stop being Cinema Sins and actually play the game now. Enter the hospital. Okay. Everything gets darker when I turn on the flashlight. That's interesting. Alright, here I am. Oh shit. Okay, that's it. I'm running back to the car. I have no control over the camera right now, but I do have my wits about me, which is most important. Okay, I've actually got no clue where I am. Oh, I'm here! Oh, wow. Okay, I did way better than I thought. I guess there's no turning back now, apparently. Please wait. Oh. Search for your classmates. Hold up a minute. We need to take a look at these. Tag yourself, I'm Germa. I like this guy, he's kind of posed up like Bigfoot. This guy was in Sad Satan as well. Are they all the same? No, there's Nosferatu, that's kind of cool. There's a beetle, I don't know which one. That guy's pogging directly at us. Alright, cool. Okay, hang on. How is this person walking? They have two right feet that point towards each other. That could be someone I know. It could also not be. I'm glad we've got all bases covered. Hello, I want to be in here. Thank you. Turn back. Yeah, the flashlight makes everything darker. Better flashlight? I'm not spending 77 US dollars on a better flashlight. How much is a Robux? Is it $1? For like 100 of them? I can't remember. Anyway, I'm not spending 77 cents on improving a flashlight in my single-player Roblox horror experience. Take plank. This might be useful. Okay, now we've got a 2x4. We can beat the hell out of Elmira whenever we meet her. Oh, okay. Was that a FNAF noise? A palening of the skin and the darkening of the eyes observed on patient redacted of redacted elementary school. I don't know why they redacted that information. That seems like it's the most important. The chief doctor has declared the case to be top secret. Is it a house? Is this a lost episode of House MD? Parents have been told patient is deceased. My name is Elmira. Do not Redacted, redacted. Can we talk about this? This must be the key. Oh, hi, I'm there. Huh. Something scary is gonna happen with this door, I can tell it. I can tell. Oh, no, never mind, it was actually just progress. Is that a scary face? No, it's just strange lighting. Read note. Those whose eyes have not yet turned dark. I've been looking for, like, a collective name for my subscribers. Maybe it should be this. What's up, those who with eyes who have... No, I've already forgotten it. Never mind. Alright, I'm going into the... I'm going into the screaming door now. I'm not certain what that was. I think she got me, though. I was worried I died. Hang on, let me crank the volume up again. There. Ooh. Alright, I'll see to that in a minute. I need... Oh, no. Okay, there's a wall here. Alright. This slip and slide is way too heavily lubricated. Help! Oh. Did I die? What? Elmira? Please wait. Alright, here we are. We're back. Stop trying to sell me a better flashlight. I'm not buying it. If you see them, run. This is the kind of image I send to people and I'm like, oh my god, it's us. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now. How do I take a screenshot here? Okay, there we go. Got a screenshot. This is us. She's gonna respond really quickly, and she's gonna agree. I'm not moving until she does. I'm taking a sip of my drink. You see? What is this from? Elmira Roblox. Scariest game of all time. As I am brave. Ah. Hello. Was that Elmira? Or her friend? The portal is the only way out. I've been saying that for years. Oh, those squares look like picture frames? Alright, I saw this one. I would like to, thank you. Oh, look at its scary little icon in the bottom. How frightening. Stop. I'm not buying the flashlight. Mallory? Hello, Mallory. This photo's got a name on it too. Elmira. I feel like there was a pattern that should have been here that is not. Cool, we're in the morgue. What is this body shape? Is this attainable? Alright, be seeing you. Elmira punched a hole in this wall. Why does every Roblox horror game have a sewer? I mean, I guess they are important parts of life that often go neglected. A portal. It looks like my only way out of here. Get help. I am not spending $149 US on getting help in Elmira, the video game. I know it's not actually $149, don't crucify me. This is feeling kind of Slendrina right now. What are you doing? Stop it. Okay, is this good or bad? I'm guessing that's bad. I'm guessing there's something behind me and I shouldn't look at it or go near it. I'm recording this when it's like... Oh, hello. She displaced me. No, I would not like to buy Faster Run in Elmira on Roblox. Did she kill me just so she can, like, sell something to me?
They give us poison so they can sell their cure. And the cure is Faster Run in Elmira in Roblox.
I was about to ask if poison is legal. It is. Just, not to give to someone. Hello. Well, thanks for the shortcut. Go into the very 70s piece of glass. This place looks strangely familiar. We were here 19 minutes ago. Elmira was 16? Oh. Okay, I don't like that exclamation I just made. That's not a good look as a YouTuber, but there we go, we've done it. Elmira Chapter 1, finished. Stop trying to make me give you money, Elmira! You're not getting my money! Why is she doing the, big money salvia pose? Oh, never mind. Have infinite revives in the Chapter 3 boss fight. Ability to track the forest monster in— wait, okay, I need to see the forest monster. I was gonna just stop there, but I need to see what that is. Yes, I'm brave, thank you, we've already established this. Alright, I don't need to be here for a long time, I just need to be here long enough to see the forest monster, and then I'm gonna call it. Oh shit, there they are! It's the Elmira brothers. Please just go directly into them. Okay, I'm back here. Sprint button R2 right trigger. Controls Xbox. Find a light source. Don't make me pay for it. If there's nothing behind this big rock, I'm gonna have a bad time. I'm having a bad time. Oh, wait, never mind. I found the Rozo Sutoka skull. Is that what that says? Rozu Sutoka. Elmira, do you want a Rozo Sutoka skull? Lantern equip. Oh, oh, I don't think The portal seems to have closed, but are we not gonna— okay. The lightning bolt that just struck me, the fucking nameless king spawning in didn't register. That's fine. Refill lantern. Oh, that's the Amnesia the Dark Descent noise. Yep. I love being able to recognize game assets. It makes me completely insufferable. Now, I just kind of stopped playing at some point because the game refused to progress past a certain stage, but I think you get the gist. It's another game like Dead Silence, which is very, very straightforward, and just like Dead Silence, it was a bit of a nostalgic experience for me. I also enjoy that I can add it to the list of Roblox games that blatantly steal audio from other games. I like the idea of one of these games targeting an incredibly specific audience to scare with some stolen assets, like a monster spots you and then this plays. Someone watching this just had a visceral reaction to that. And that's why I make these videos. Next game. Alright, I'm not talking about this game for long. It pissed me off. Big time. It tried, several times, to sell me a flashlight in a dark horror game for real money. What's next? Selling the trigger in an FPS game? The wheels in a racing game? Life-saving medication at a hospital? What are you, insane? Okay, that might seem like an overreaction, but this rant is more in response to the excessive monetization that happens in a lot of these Roblox games, and I worry that Roblox players will come to accept this as the norm. It isn't. Yeah, sure, most of the time the purchases are for completely harmless things like aesthetic items or goofy multiplayer interactions, but good heavens, there's a lot of pay to win, or even simply pay to get the bare minimum options in what are largely short PvE games. That shit is not going on outside of Roblox and like horrible exploitative mobile games. The darkest dregs of soulless asset flip itch.io games don't even go near this territory. Please don't buy this stuff. I get that developers need to make money, but does it have to be like this? Sell some e-boy starter pack haircut skins for e-daters or something if you have to, not basic gameplay elements. God, I'm old. Anyway, I'm sure this game's fine, but I don't particularly care. Let's move on. Now this game is more like it, because the first thing I notice when I load in is that the lobby music is ripped straight from Conscript, one of my favorite horror games of recent years. I mean, as far as survival horror save room themes go, this has got to be among the best. Then we actually start the game. We wake up to find what I thought was a stalker character dead on our legs, but upon closer inspection I see that he's actually a diamond dog from Metal Gear Solid 5. Then we get an objective, and the objective reminder sound effect is taken directly from Dark Souls, and I know I keep yapping about stolen assets, but there are two reasons I feel I need to mention it. Firstly, it's one of my only skills. Some people can jump high, some people can run fast, some people can get stable and fulfilling employment. I, on the other hand, can recognize video game assets relatively quickly. The other reason I bring it up is because I genuinely love it. Stuff like this is the closest thing we have in the modern day to pirate radio stations. And again, YouTubers use stolen assets all the time. The music in the background currently is stolen too. The Wild West never disappeared, baby. You just got used to the cowboys. But anyway, this is a game where you wake up in some kind of military compound to find that everyone around you is dead. And seeing that they were all quietly diamond dogs, we can assume that all of these corpses, and maybe even the villains, have names like Squeamish Jackalope, or Youthful Marmot, or Gaping Dragon, or some such. After looking around the military compound and the surrounding woods, we meet a guy that tells us there's a madman with a sledgehammer and gas mask going around doing everyone's nut in. Which, as I said, is a weird phrase if you're not accustomed to it. And his story tracks because everyone looks like they've been stung by an exotic bird. The guy also tells us that the villain is invincible, which explains why we never hear his name. Unfortunately, our expository bestie gets stolen through a window and swiftly delivered into the past tense. Naturally, being an empath, I quickly joined him. I'd be upset about being murdered, but I truly appreciate a man with a hammer. Longtime viewers of the channel will know that I have a taste for the fantasy archetype of human warrior who, despite lacking any magical skills or blessings, annihilates mages and demons and such. And a hammer-wielding serial killer that beats the shit out of armed soldiers is kind of the crime equivalent of that. But I only like it in fiction. Good lord, I find myself once again having to say that I do not condone murder or violence, and I'm not the Zodiac Killer. Please stop bringing it up. There's another t-shirt idea. Anyway, we're left to our own devices now and have to somehow escape the scary hammerman and get help in a forest so dark that I can only describe it as quite dark. Playing solo is a bit odd. There's a lot of invisible walls and it's very difficult to tell where the villain is at any point, so I end up running into him many times. And it becomes a bit of a trial and error kind of deal, which does hurt the spookiness of it all. Tedium, confusion, and difficulty quite easily overshadow horror if not managed. I'd elaborate, but that's a topic for another day. Anyway, then we do some chores in a forest, like finding some keys, and then the villain loses a hand while trying to foolishly grab us through some elevator doors as we escape to the next level. That next level being substantially brighter, thankfully. One little puzzle later, we're told to collect my generators in a lovely little underground base while a new villain tries to stop us. We all know this formula well. While doing this, I find some lore that suggests that there's been some lab that needed to be blown up or caved in or inspected by an ombudsman or some such, and presumably that went wrong and led to whatever's going on here. And that is the first and last bit of lore I found. Or needed, to be frank. It was remarkably efficient. The guy in the power section made me jump quite a lot, as the footage probably shows, but that's because he's loud, and as we know, loud is the second scariest thing there is, after red. After turning on all of the generators, you amnesia the bunker your way back outside and arrive at a small village. Conveniently named Village. Once again, this is remarkably efficient writing. And we meet a friend. His name is Dave. He asks us why we would want to find a radio tower in this situation where several villains are beating people to death with hammers. Dave, despite being potentially the last inhabitant of Village, isn't the brightest. Not to worry, he wasn't using that brain anyway. And to end the game, we walk down a road and decide to pick up a gun, finally, and shoot a man. This removes a good chunk of his torso, and that seems to earn us his respect. He politely leaves. The moral of the story? Don't get killed with hammers. While writing this section of the video, I came to the conclusion that all I've really done for Slaughter is just describe its events verbatim. I don't usually do that, but I think that means I'm getting tired and should end the video. Then again, summarizing things verbatim is, I believe, the exact definition of a video essay, so you're welcome for this high art. It cost 4 Robux to make. Now, for an overly long conclusion. Buckle in. Now, there's a lot to unpack about the topic of Roblox horror, and I'm not entirely sure of where to start. Mostly because the platform and what it offers is so massively varied. But if I was to condense my opinion, it'd be something like Roblox horror good. Lots of bad, lots of strange, lots of very basic, but lots of good. Way more than I expected, and I was a fool as a young lad to dismiss it so easily. While I'm happy with the stuff I grew up with, this would have been a fun addition as well. I know that some people will think that by supporting a lot of these popular, accessible games, I'm just trying to pander to people or reject the more obscure and intellectual things. That's not true at all. If you've been around on this channel for long enough, you'll know that I'm quite a pretentious twat. I try to disguise it with jokes and shit, but underneath all of that, it's clear that I'm a pretty insufferable, chronic overanalyzer who will take any chance he can to put his unappealing art degree to use. And don't worry, that kind of content is coming back soon. But the reason I talk about Roblox games, developer games, and in the future stuff like FNAF and creepypastas is because I'm incredibly passionate about bridging the wholly artificial cultural gap between what we consider low art and high art. Things can be simple without being anti-intellectual. In fact, demanding top-notch excellence all the time is in itself dumb as fuck. It's a complete rejection of the long and complicated journey that people take as creators. For many developers, Roblox games are a starting point, like with Zeekers, who is now one of the most successful indie developers of this decade. For others, they're a way of gauging the popularity of ideas which they themselves can build on top of for the betterment of entire genres, like with Rooms, Doors, and Pressure. And for others, it's a great way of introducing the masses to cool settings and ideas that may otherwise be left to niche communities, like with The Mimic and its folklore and Apeirophobia with the Backrooms. Sure, stuff like the Backrooms feels like it's been huge forever, but stuff like this is how that happens. Ideas exist in an ecosystem, and accessible platforms like Roblox are a perfect way of spreading awareness and interest. Now, naturally, because I'm talking about Roblox horror, a lot of the people watching this video will be on the younger side, and I want to address that side of the audience specifically now. Not in the scary Minecraft YouTuber sense, but rather with some genuine advice from someone who was once almost exactly where you are now. People try to make you grow up so fast. This has kind of always been the case in one way or another, but it's felt particularly grim on the internet. So much of modern culture is dictated by 20-somethings with the terrible combination of microphones and insecurity that tell us what is and isn't considered cringe. And it's very easy to get sucked in by these people because negativity is incredibly tempting. It's so easy to both produce and consume. So you might feel like you have to turn your back on the things you enjoy because these twats tell you it's cringe. Instead of naturally growing out of these tastes, or simply keeping them into adulthood, you mold your preferences to fit into whatever narrow, flavor-of-the-month, video-essayable media they tell you to like instead. And eventually, you will reach a time when you realize that you were played. They exploited your insecurity so they could chase trends and make money. And by the time you've recognized that, you likely won't be a child anymore. And that formative time of your life that should have been spent exploring possibilities and opening your mind is gone, squandered in cynicism and shame rather than growth and joy. So don't let people dissuade you from the things you like. You don't need to justify why you like the things you like. It's great if you can, but you don't need to. Not to anyone. Conversely, don't get stuck in a cycle of familiarity. Let the things you enjoy pique your interest and lead to new things. So long as it's not like hard drugs, then maybe reconsider. But yeah, challenge yourself sometimes. Try something new. Don't get stuck in a rut. I know that's easier said than done. I was stuck in a rut for a long time, but then I took a chance. I uploaded a few YouTube videos, and they were, just like a lot of Roblox horror games, terrible and cringe and largely unconsumable by most standards, but some people enjoyed them. Most of all, me. And yeah, I know I don't have a huge audience now, but that's not really the point. Instead, I can look back on my unappealing, clunky old shit and smile, because it led me here, to this unappealing, clunky new shit, which, for now, I prefer. And just by merit of existing, this channel has led to a lot of stuff in my life, both good and bad. It's been exciting, all because I tried something new. Right, that's the obligatory soapboxing section complete. Back to Roblox. I know the comments will be filled with people asking why I didn't cover insert game here in this video. I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of games, so if you want me to make a follow-up to this, let me know what else I should cover. I'd like to look at some of the classic Roblox horror games from way back, as most of the ones I spoke about here are from the last couple of years. I bet there's some spectacular jank from the early 2010s and late 2000s. Also, feel free to recommend any bad Roblox horror games. I'm more than happy to have some fun with those in the future too. Frankly, I'm finding my own recent positivity sickening. And I know there's one question I'll get above all others. One question I've already had 100 times on my Granny video. Why didn't he talk about Piggy, the incredibly popular Granny-inspired Roblox game? Well, another YouTuber by the name of Aya owes you that Piggy video first, and I'm not getting in the way of that. Not again. Ever since I uploaded my Granny video, I've been getting various birds of prey circling my position at all times. It might be unrelated, but that's not a risk I'm willing to take. Do go and watch his Granny video. It's very good, and he covers a lot more than I did. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about for now. Thanks for watching. And also, apologies for the long wait between videos. I turned evil, but I'm back to normal now, ever since I got this comment. I'll see you all again soon. And I mean that this time. Have a good one. I too am in this episode.